All right, now my American History Notes revised. I'm continuing to talk about New England. So up until 1638, there were four great settlements in New England: Plymouth, 1620; Massachusetts Bay, 1630; Hartford, 1635; and Providence, 1636. Now, Dr. John Clark, that's Clark with an E on the end, came as a physician, a medical doctor, to serve in Boston. He arrived in Boston in 1637 with separatist tendencies and beliefs to find in it a religious upheaval. There had been a law enacted in 1636 forbidding citizens to belong to churches not pre-approved by the magistrates. Can you imagine that? John Cotton, the hero of the dissidents in England that had come to America as pilgrims, was a drawing point for many people from England who were unhappy with the political and religious situation there. Among these were John Wheelwright, William Hutchinson, and William Dyer. Now, John Wheelwright was to be a preacher in Braintree at the Boston Congregational Church, following Reverend Cotton's example, as Cotton was the undisputed spiritual leader of all New England. Wheelwright took things too far, according to some, including Governor Winthrop, and his practice of what Cotton called, quote, experimental religion, and was called an opinionist. There was a great deal of debate between preachers and politicians over doctrine and biblical truth. Much of the main point was a debate among the Reformed church members about how a person can know they are saved. The opinionists were labeled antinomian, or those without law. They were accused of expounding too much on grace and therefore preaching licentiousness. Those on the other side were labeled legalists and identified as orthodox. Soon it was clear that they would win even if John Cotton wasn't on their side. The Orthodox, who controlled the civil authorities, looked to attack home Bible studies, which they believed were the source of many heresies. Many Bible studies took place at private homes around Boston at this time because, unlike today in America, these early Americans took their faith very seriously in a real active sort of way. Looking for a fiend to blame things on, the authorities found Anne Hutchinson. She was bright, attractive, and articulate, and was conducting ladies' meetings in her home with her husband's approval, and she was primarily a supporter of John Cotton. The court wished to make an example of her, and she was accused of, quote, having a masculine spirit, denying the resurrection, and threatening subversion of the peaceable order in government. John Wheelwright, her brother-in-law, entered the fray and preached a famous sermon called The Covenant of Grace, which supported the opinionists, calling the authorities the enemies of Christ. Now he also became a target of the authorities. And we'll continue with what happened to him and what happens to the others next. I hope you'll watch this, share it with somebody else, repost it, whatever. Feel free to make comments if you have something else you want to add or you want to argue with me. That's fine. Thank you.